next we go to our dialogue of the week. Jakarta, which has been the country's economic hub for years, is expected to remain a magnet to multinational companies and become a global city after losing its status as the country's capital city.
As stipulated in Law Number 3 of 2022 concerning National Capital City, the government plans to move its capital city away from congested Jakarta to Nusantara, a $32 billion city under construction in East Kalimantan. Based on Law Number 2, 2024 concerning the special regional province of Jakarta, after no longer being the capital city, Jakarta will be maintained as an economic hub and transformed into a global city. Jakarta, which marked its 497th birthday on June 22, contributes nearly 17% to the Indonesian economy. The city has a population of approximately 10 million people, making it one of the most populous cities in the world. Jakarta has become the business and financial hub of Indonesia for years. As the largest city in Indonesia, Jakarta is home to many large companies in the country, including multinational corporations. Many companies choose Jakarta as their headquarters due to its good infrastructure and large market potential. Secretary-General of the Ministry of Home Affairs, Suhajar Diantoro, has said that under the Special Region Law of Jakarta, Jakarta has been awarded special authorities to manage itself as a business and financial center, as well as a global city after no longer becoming a capital city. So far, Jakarta has also been the main destination for both local and foreign investors. The Indonesian Investment Coordinating Board, or BKPM, recorded that investment realization in Jakarta in the first quarter of 2024 reached 58.4 trillion rupiah. This figure increased by 60% compared to the same period in 2023, which was recorded at 36.5 trillion rupiah. Meanwhile, the realization of foreign investment during the period amounted to $1.5 billion or around 23.1 trillion rupiahs, an increase of more than 30% in the first quarter of last year. This achievement contributed 11.3% of the total national FDI realization. Meanwhile, in 2023, realization in Jakarta reached a total of 166.7 trillion rupiah, the second largest after West Java. However, to make the dream come true, a number of problems have to be resolved. Jakarta's weakness can be seen from a number of parameters in Kearney's Global City Index. There are 5 indicators that are used as the parameters, such as business activities, human resources, information exchange, cultural experience, and political involvement. Jakarta is ranked 74 out of 156 countries in the Kearney Institute's Global Cities Report 2023. Jakarta's position is below other big cities in Southeast Asia, such as Singapore, which is in 7th place, Bangkok 45th, Manila in 70th, and Kuala Lumpur in 72nd. Therefore, in transforming Jakarta into a global city and major economic hub in the region, all stakeholders, including government and civil societies, should work hand in hand to overcome the challenges such as floods, inaccessibility to clean water, inadequate housing, poor waste management, traffic congestion, and pollution.
After losing its status as capital city, Jakarta, as stipulated on the new law, Jakarta will be maintained as the country's main economic hub and transform into a global city in the Asian region. Now, joining us today through Zoom, Bhima Yudhistira, Executive Director of Center of Economic and Law Studies, or CELIOS, where he will share his further insight on the prospect of Jakarta to become a key global city in the Asian region. Hello, Bhima, Pak Bhima. Hello, Pak Bhima, can you hear my voice? Pak Bhima, perhaps could you please check if the monitor is not muted? Can you please double check because we cannot hear your voice yet?
I can hear your voice.
Okay, all right. Okay, we got you back, Pak Bhima. Thank you so much for being here through Zoom on Economic Outlook. Now, firstly, Pak Bhima, after losing its status as the nation's capital, Jakarta still is attractive as a trade and financial center for multinational companies. The question is, will Jakarta still be as attractive as before? And does Jakarta still have that vibe as an economic hub in Indonesia?
Absolutely. I would say that Jakarta is a very, very huge potential of the untapped market. As we can see that currently Jakarta almost 4,500 trillion rupiah of the GDP regionals. So it consists almost 17% of the total GDP nationals. And also we can see that Jakarta is also important for the logistic hub. Export import in the national levels depends on the Jakarta. So the number of the export of the Jakarta can be more than 4.5 billion US dollars in just the first quarter of this year alone, in terms of the logistics and also in terms of the huge populations, but also in terms of the currency reserves to attract more foreign tourists come to Jakarta. So either way, after Jakarta not placed as a capital city of Indonesia, because the government want to move to Kalimantan, anyway, Jakarta still become like a huge major tourist attractions, especially for the foreign and also domestic tourists. As we can see that the number of the foreign tourists in Jakarta compared with the domestic ones occupy the hotel by 9.7%. So we can project it that in the near futures, it means like in the 5 up to 10 years, the next Jakarta will be like a more 20% of the tourists stay in the hotel, in the accommodations, is coming from the foreign citizens. So Jakarta is also important for the technology hub, for the startup innovation hub, and also for the investments, because we see that many of the company, both locals and multinational company, they may have operations in Sulawesi, they may have operations in another islands apart from Java, but their headquarters, the accounting office, the tax management is held in Jakarta. So Jakarta will be one of the promising cities in not only in the Southeast Asians, but also in the whole Asia Pacific in the coming of years.
Well, that's very encouraging to hear. Pak Bhima, just now you mentioned about technology and fashion industry developing in Jakarta. Now, in your perspective, what industries or perhaps what other industries that needs to be developed in a city as big as Jakarta?
Yeah, Jakarta also has so many problems like flood, traffic jams. So we can call that infrastructure investments. Infrastructure project is also one of the top priority of any of the future governments lead the Jakarta. Infrastructure project, for instance, that the MRT, we need to develop phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 of the MRT. So Jakarta not only develop the infrastructure for the Jakarta himself, but also to align or connect with the city nearby the Jakarta. And the infrastructures also including not only the transportations, but also the flood management. We need like a huge giant seawall, for instance, how to prevent any flooding coming from the sea, because the level of the sea rising is also become one of the biggest challenge in the Jakarta oceans economy. But also we see that the fishery business is also one of the promising sectors. Logistic, one of them, I already mentioned the logistic ones, and creative economy, not only fashions, technology, but other creative economies developed by the city governor of the Jakarta. This is also one of the potentials to attract more funding, to attract more investments in Jakarta.
Now, Pak Bhima, you mentioned about building the seawalls. Of course, this is also to avoid the flooding issue that is currently happening in Jakarta almost every year, that is not really improving so far. So what do you think about our flood management here in Jakarta, as well as our environment? What can be improved more to make sure that Jakarta can be a global city?
Yeah, that's true, because perhaps there's some environments, social challenges that need to be discussed, need to be communicated, especially with the people, community, fishermen living nearby the sea. So there must be like a more transparent communications, accountability, that giant sea walls, perhaps one of the solutions, but not solve all the solutions. Not all problems can be solved with the giant sea walls. So there might be another options to challenge the sea level rise in the northern part of the Jakarta. But on the other issues of the environments, we see that the air pollutions created by the transportations, it needs more investments to provide bus from the electric vehicles. So it cannot be depend on the shifting from the combustion engines vehicle to electric vehicles, but also how to manage the whole transportation systems to become more affordable, more connect, and the people will afford to let go their combustion engine vehicles, the motorcycles, and use more public transport as well. The other part, I just want to raise issues about the industry decarbonizations. It's also part of the potential. It's a potentials, but also some challenges ahead, because many of the manufacture sectors in Jakarta, in surrounded area of the Jakarta, still using captive coal power plants, which is this is kind of pollutions problems in Jakarta. In some area is affected a lot. So to decrease the numbers of the health impact of the air pollution in Jakarta, one of the solution is how to use more renewable energy in the industrial park, in the Jakarta, in surrounded area of the Jakarta, like how to fasten the early retirement of the coal power plants and move to more clean energy. I think that's also one of the solutions in the environment front.
Well, apparently there's still so many issues environment-wise that still needs to be improved here in Jakarta on its way to becoming global city. Now, talking about a global city, you know, on top of my mind, I'm thinking like New York or maybe Singapore or Beijing. But then apart from being an economic center, Jakarta will be also designated as a global city. In your opinion, Pak Bhima, what parameters must be fulfilled to obtain status for Jakarta to become a global city?
Yeah, one of the main challenges, if we compare with the Singapore, with the Hong Kong, or with the New York, as you said earlier, so we have problems of the huge populations in Jakarta and surrounded area of Jakarta, but also in terms of the unemployment rate, youth unemployment rate is so high in Jakarta, so it also creates social tensions. So if you become like a global city, you need to manage this kind of the unemployment rate, how to manage the criminality coming from this unemployment of the youth populations, because we see that every single years, the numbers of the migrants coming from all across Indonesia just to get a job in Jakarta is around 1,000 up to 15,000 during the Lebarans or Eid Mubarak times. But in the overall years, there have been like a rise of 179,000 of new workforce in Jakarta. So how to handle this kind of the job opportunity? Of course, with the opening more infrastructure project, opening more business creativity, and also opening more certainty in the business license in Jakarta. So it will attract new investments, new offices in Jakarta. Because this is also one of the preconditions before we starting to move toward global cities. or global economic city powerhouse in the Jakarta. But the others also challenges, if we compare with the other cities, it must be like a livable. It means like the air pollution is low, uh, public transport or mass transport is available for every citizens. They also have a strong cohesiveness of the society. It means like the government should provide more social protection program for the elderly, for the disabled people, so they can live in Jakarta same as live in the other kind of global city.
Now, Pak Bhima, in the meantime, there are many multinational companies that have their offices based here in Jakarta, and hence we hear a lot of international events happening in Jakarta. Now, my question is, how do we gain more trust so that in the future we will have more and more international events and make Jakarta more attractive to the global audience?
Yeah, if we're talking about the international event, Jakarta is one of the place, but unfortunately, if we see that the Taylor Swift concert, they're happening not in Jakarta because of some reasons, because of the security, because of the business license when the event organizers registers the concert, for instance, the ticketing problems, some kind of the technicals, professionality of managing the event of internationals, actress. So we still lack of competitiveness in terms of the event management, in terms of the business climate in the musical concert compared with the Singapore. So that's also one of the biggest challenge right now. So the governments, I think both government of Jakarta, government of Indonesia, in the Ministerial of Tourism, and also the other kind of the government's institutions need to address these issues immediately, because we see that I also one of the victim of the cancellations of the international events. For instance, there is Bring Me the Horizons. They become like a huge sensationals and await events in Jakarta, but because of the technical problems, the event organizer is not yet professionals. So I think it's create another kind of pain for the fans in Indonesia. Therefore, if we want to watch international musical events, we go to the nearby city like Singapore or Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, so the government needs to pay attention of this to ensure that more than foreign tourists come and also domestic tourists comes to watch the concert in Jakarta, so it can bring more revenue towards local economies, towards local governments, and also national government as well.
And of course, we hope that the government will learn from this lesson so that we don't miss any more opportunities like this. Bhima Yudhistira, Executive Director of CELIOS, thank you so much for sharing us your perspective, and we'll see you again on our next dialogue. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.